It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
But you know, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times. If one only remembers to turn on the light.
It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends.
The ones that love us never really leave us.
Working hard is important, but there's something that matters: believing in yourself. If they can do it, why not us?
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. Today we're covering Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Act 4, Scenes 12 through 15, which is the end.
We've gotten to the end.
This is going to be the end of Cursed Child. Elizabeth is back with us.
Hello everyone.
So we are wrapping up Cursed Child today. However, stay tuned to the end of the episode, and we will let you all know what is next for Hogwarts, a podcast, because we will continue on.
Not done yet?
Not done yet. So please stay tuned for all of that. Before we get to the scenes at the end of this production, we do have a couple of shout-outs to give. And the first one is a big thank you to Barry at the Retold podcast, who recently had me on as a guest to cover Goblet of Fire, chapters 13 and 14. And if you remember what those chapters include...
There's some Barty Crouch
There's some Barty Crouch Jr. And all who listen to the podcast know that I do love me some Barty Crouch Jr.
Yep.
So I was very happy to come on his podcast and discuss those lessons that he gives, especially the awesome scene of him turning Draco into a ferret, which was a very funny thing to discuss with Barry. So thank you again to Barry over at the Retold podcast for having me. If you want to check out that episode, please feel free to do so. That's on Spotify, so please give it a look.
I recommend listening to it. I did, and I very much enjoyed your discussion about McGonagall walking by the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom while the forbidding curses are being taught.
Yeah, we had some fun. We had some fun on the episode, kind of going back and forth, as always. It's fun to be a guest on other people's podcasts, and I'm very honored to do so. So thank you to Barry. Now, we do have other comments from some of our listeners. The first one is from Grant on Order of the Phoenix, Chapter 16, In the Hog's Head. Grant says, "Can you guys do a Hunger Games podcast? Dan and Anna shouting about how much they hate Katniss sounds like a treat. I do not like me some Katniss Everdeen.
I don't know why. She's fine.
She was my least favorite protagonist. That has since been exceeded by a character on
The Last of Us.
The Last of Us.
Yeah, you don't like Ellie.
I do not like Ellie.
I don't know why.
For a lot of the same reasons. It's just Ellie goes a little bit further with it. If you would like my thoughts on Katniss Everdeen and Ellie, please let me know. If you want any other content from us, let us know, and I will be glad to share my thoughts on any other fandom.
We have like a Hunger Games special.
We could have a 3-part Hunger Games special where we just talk about the 3 main books. Obviously, they've done a couple of prequels now.
I haven't read those, so I've
read one. I haven't read the other, and now that they got all the movies and all that kind of good stuff. But thank you for enjoying our at least hot takes, aside from Harry Potter, that we've discussed on this podcast. Appreciate it. So yeah, if you want any other kind of content from us, please let us know. Thank you, Grant, for the comment. Next comment comes from Ainsley, who left a comment on Order of the Phoenix, Chapter 1, Dudley Demented. A couple of Order of the Phoenix comments here, which is kind of
Once again,
cool.
good book.
Yep. Ainsley says, I love this. I've been reading the Harry Potter series and took a break after Goblet of Fire. Since it was so long, and I joined here, and so glad I found this podcast.
Aw.
Thanks for posting this.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for commenting, Ainsley. Yeah, I think I've shared before a similar, if I'm reading your comment correctly, Ainsley, I think I've had a similar experience in my life with Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix. I fell out of Harry Potter after Goblet of Fire. I was all in. I was a huge Harry Potter fan. And then Goblet of Fire came out and I loved it. And then there was a long break between books.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell out of it because, you know, that age you're wrapped up in a lot of things. So I kind of fell out of it and I picked up Order of the Phoenix years later. And I read it and I'm like, I wonder if this Harry Potter thing is still an interest of mine. Spoiler alert.
Is it still an interest, Dan?
It is a little interesting to me. So much so that I started a podcast. So yeah, I did kind of have a similar experience from Goblet of Fire to Order of the Phoenix. Maybe a lot of people have had that kind of experience.
I've had a few students before say how they found the fourth book intimidating because it's so thick.
Well, the fifth one's worse.
The fifth one, I'm the exact opposite. I got the fifth one and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so big. I'm so excited. There's so much Harry Potter here. I thought for sure the sixth book and the seventh book were going to be even bigger. And I was like, man, the seventh book is going to be like 3 inches thick. This is going to be great. I'm so excited. And then I was like, oh, it's shorter. But maybe that's why the fifth book is my favorite, because it's the thickest.
I do remember having that same kind of thought for book 6, because after I rediscovered Harry Potter by reading Order of the Phoenix, I was like, ooh. So I rediscovered Order of the Phoenix like literally weeks before book 6 dropped.
Right, I remember you said that.
So I was super hyped because I just finished book 5 and book 6 was coming out. So I'm like, ooh, this is going to be exciting. And then I was a little disappointed by how thin the book was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is like a
I was
downgrade.
like, I want
I'm
more.
Like, I'm all hyped for Harry Potter.
Give
and
me
it's
more Harry Potter.
But I'm sure some publisher somewhere was like, you can't publish a 1,000-page book. This is not supposed to be War and Peace, okay? Like, kids are supposed to read this at an interesting clip. That's probably why. But anyway, thank you, Ainsley, for the comment. We always appreciate you guys discovering our podcast and letting us know how you discovered it and
continuing to listen to
and that you've enjoyed it. So Thank you for commenting. The last comment we will cover today is from Brittenauer, who left a comment on Deathly Hallows 19 years later.
So the epilogue.
Yep. Brittenauer says, hey all, I didn't comment the whole series due to the show being long over. However, thank you for this. It has been magical. I, like you all, grew up the same time as the characters. I had forgotten how much more was in the books. Knew they were better, but it's been a literal lifetime since last reading. Being one of the few Slytherins, I would have loved to back Jen up on a few episodes.
She would have loved that, too.
Great show. Thanks again for reawakening the love for Harry Potter, the boy who lived.
Oh, that's very cool.
Thank you very much, Brittenauer. That's a lovely, lovely comment.
I'm glad you rediscovered the books. I'm glad you came back to reading them. That's really fun.
It is a wonderful thing, especially when you've been away for them. I can attest to this personally. Before starting this podcast, it had been years since I had done a reread, like a formal reread of the series. So I took the opportunity with this podcast to do just that. Also, for reference, it has now been actual years since I have read book 1. So maybe we are due for a reboot of this podcast in a way.
Yeah, maybe. Second round through?
Second round.
I'm sure we discovered new stuff because I feel like every time I reread the series, and I have reread the series quite a bit, I connect to it in a new way. I discover something new, and it's magical in that way. I love it.
It's great. It's fantastic. And reading it as an older adult who has experienced a lot more life, I think it does hit you in a completely different way. And I hope, Brittenauer, that's a little bit of what you've discovered on your reread and your listen to us talking about it. So thank you for the comment. However, I will disagree with you on one thing. We ain't done yet. we are continuing to go with this. So
keep listening.
Keep listening. Keep commenting. We appreciate all of the interaction and engagement. And if you wanted to interact with us, and if you wanted to give us a shout out, if you wanted to let us know what you're thinking on anything that we are saying, you could do so by checking out any of our socials. That's Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. All of our socials can be found at Hogwarts-a-Pod. You can even leave a comment on the episode on Spotify. You could also participate in the polls that we have on Spotify by going to the episode, scrolling down a little bit, and clicking on an option. We have plenty of polls, and they are up for a long, long time. So even go back to some of our earlier polls if you missed them. Participate in them. We love seeing those results. So yeah, thank you again for all of those wonderful, wonderful comments. And we are going to start our discussion on the last few scenes of
the beginning
Cursed
of the
Child.
end.
Yep. We're going to begin with Act 4, Scene 12. We're in Godric's Hollow still, and we're still in the year 1981. Harry looks out at the actual, real Voldy, because if you remember where we left off, Voldy has arrived in Godric's Hollow.
Yes.
And Harry just looks upon him helplessly. And he says, quote, "Voldy is going to kill my parents, and there's nothing I can do to stop him." Draco's like, hey, wait a second. You know, Harry, there is something you could actually do here. And Draco then thinks that even though there might be something Harry can do, the fact that he's refusing to do it is heroic.
Yeah.
That's what makes Harry heroic.
Albus agreed with him. He was like, yeah, Harry, you could do something, but you won't. And that's actually a good thing here.
And then they all begin to witness the events of that evening. It is interesting how everybody knows the difficult thing that Harry's about to witness. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, no, we're going to stand with you.
That does bring up a question I was going to ask you. Which do you think is harder for Harry? Him having to watch his parents die, or that bit in book 7 where he was walking towards his death? Because at least, like, now he has his friends and, like, his family with him, but he's watching his parents die, and that has been the trauma for his whole life. But then also, like, walking towards his death, he did have his parents with him, as well as Sirius and Lupin in their, like, Resurrection Stone form. But it was also like, I am walking with the purpose of knowing that every breath I take is one closer to my last breath.
Sure. So to answer that, I would say probably the tougher thing for Harry to do is to walk towards his death in the Forbidden Forest. And I say that because he doesn't know what is going to happen next. Mm-hmm. All he knows is that he is going to die. He is walking towards his death, and no one can really know what the other side of that is, obviously. So that unknown, especially at such a young age, must be tremendous to try to fight through. Everything in your body is screaming, what are you doing? Walk the other way. Run the other way. Like, for him to do that takes a tremendous amount of strength and courage, which he does get from his family and some of the closer adults in his life that helped give him that little, like, you can do this. Mm-hmm. He's getting similar support now with, you don't have to do this alone. We're here with you. We're here to support you through what is clearly a very difficult time that you are having to go through. And I think that is emblematic of a larger Harry Potter narrative of Harry, like he said, and he has said multiple times, is, I can't do this alone. I've never done this alone. I've always had a support system. I've always had people helping me. This is kind of emblematic of that.
That's interesting because I actually think watching his parents die would be harder. And for some of the reasons that you say, what comes to my mind is how the Mirror of Erised showed his parents. So the desire that he has always had is to be with his parents while they're alive. So watching them die and accepting that they have to die and knowing that that causes your future self, and in theory his past self, because it's both at the same time. Knowing that it causes that trauma and knowing that it sets himself up for like the years of needing therapy and like all that. But I think when he was walking towards his death, it was a willing sacrifice, and he had accepted for himself, like, I am saying goodbye because I need to do this heroic thing in order to make the world better. So I think once he accepted that, while I'm not downplaying the difficulty of walking towards that death, because my gosh, those 2 chapters, I am always in tears every single time I read the series. But I think because he accepts it and knows it's like an active choice on his part, I feel like that's almost easier.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. What he's about to witness is enough to cover years of future therapy. I'm not saying it's not.
So much therapy is needed.
For sure. Undoubtedly.
And now not just for Harry, too, because now literally everyone else here is about to witness it.
Don't get me wrong. It's a very hard situation to have to witness.
I'd be interested in what the audience thinks.
Sure. Let us know what you think might be the harder position for Harry to be in. That scene when he walks into the forest again to face his mortality. Mm-hmm. Or this, where he has to face his parents' mortality. But let's actually get to the events of that evening. We get Voldy entering the Potter house, and James immediately saying, Lily, take Harry and go. I'll hold him off. Voldy laughs at James' attempts and immediately uses the killing curse. Green light flashes. This is a stage note. Mm-hmm. Green light actually does flash around the auditorium when this is done on stage. Harry flinches at the flash of green light. At this point, Albus and Ginny come up to Harry and grasp his hands for a little extra love and support. Harry sees his mother in the window and notes just how beautiful she actually is. Mm-hmm. And Lily says, not Harry, please not Harry. Voldy says, stand aside, you silly girl, stand aside now. Lily says, kill me instead. Please, I will do anything. And Voldy uses the killing curse. Harry, a mess of grief, is sent to the floor. I think in this sequence, we really, at least I was, really sold on the idea of Harry experiencing this grief. Mm-hmm. Because of how they set everything. Because I do remember this part of the production pretty well, where they do focus on the characters on the stage. So this group that we have watching this event from outside.
Yeah, like their backs are to the audience.
Yeah, and you get to focus on this family, and you get to focus on these close friends, and you get to focus on, let's call him a new friend in Draco. And you get to focus on this group of individuals watching one of the most traumatic events, not only in Harry Potter's life, but honestly one of the most consequential events in the Wizarding World's history.
Yeah.
Because this event is the flaw in Voldy literally becoming a world conqueror, if he wanted to be. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the little blemish that allows the loophole.
Yeah, I mean, the stage notes how the green light from the killing curse for Lily kind of floods over Harry as he falls to the floor, which gave me, I thought that was great symbolism of Harry being hit with a killing curse, same way baby Harry is getting hit with a killing curse, and obviously it not working in either way. I loved them having their backs to the audience. I thought it was a really smart move to have the focus be on them instead of the actual killing. Because you're only really hearing James and Lily from off stage. You get to see Albus take Harry's hand. You get to see Ginny take his hand. You see him holding on to his family as his family is being taken away from him. So I think we, the audience, can more empathize with Harry and be in his shoes in that moment, since we are seeing him struggle and need that emotional support to get through it. So I think if they had shown the killing on the stage, that would have drawn our attention more than Harry's reactions would have. So giving the attention to the softness of him watching from afar, I think that does a great job of refocusing it on Harry.
I definitely think that the way they showed these events taking place on stage was more impactful. Mm-hmm. And I think it really hit harder. And I think they did a really good job with it.
Yeah.
So, we will continue on to Act 4, Scene 13. We are still in Godric's Hollow. However, this time we are inside James and Lily Potter's house in the year 1981. And we are inside the ruins of the house, and Hagrid begins to walk through what is left. And he's searching for survivors, slowly, hoping to find Lily and James alive, hoping what he's heard and what he's been told can't be true. That's definitely not an accurate description of what happened. No, of course not. However, Hagrid does confirm that what he has been told is indeed what happened. He finds Lily and James, and Hagrid bows his head, lays some flowers down, but he does have to leave pretty quickly because he notes that muggles will be coming, particularly police. Mm-hmm. And he says to them, he says, "You won't be forgotten." And Hagrid then hears the sound of a baby. He goes to Harry and says what I think is just a really wonderful little mini monologue that we get from Hagrid.
Before you say the monologue too, though, to also paint the picture, it said in the book how this crib is like radiating with light. There's just this ethereal light coming from it.
Yeah. Hagrid looks down at Harry and says, "Well, hello. You must be Harry." "Hello, Harry Potter. I'm Rubius Hagrid, and I'm going to be your friend whether you like it or not. Because you've had it tough, not that you know it yet, and you're going to need friends. Now you best come with me, don't you think?" And that's when he takes Harry from the house.
Yes, and it said that he didn't look back once he has Harry, which I think is a nice little extra detail there. I do like having a scene of Hagrid in the aftermath going around and finding the bodies and finding baby Harry. I think I like it so much just because, one, we know that's part of the history, and it's nice seeing baby Harry with the ethereal glow around him, because it's almost like, yes, you just went through that trauma, but you are still our savior, our hero for the future, and this is the start of things. And I always like that full circle technique that books use, because we know that these are the moments right before the very first chapter of book one. So having that kind of connect those two loops together always makes me really happy.
I really like this scene because you see the tenderness and the kindness and just the general caring nature of this monstrous human being.
The gentle giant.
The gentle half-giant.
Yeah.
And who could be so intimidating and so dangerous and so violent. And here's the tender side. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of a relationship between the two individuals that becomes really one of Harry's strongest safety nets.
I did really like that comment of "I'll be your friend," because when you think about it, it's like the end of his friendship with James and Lily, but it's the start of his friendship with Harry. And I really like how in this scene, I mean, anytime we've talked about that night, it's always about Harry and rescuing Harry and bringing him to the Dursleys, and how Hagrid was the one who brought him to that. Sure. But even though it's always been, yeah, James and Lily died that night, I feel like not much time is spent on the bodies, right? Like Hagrid acknowledged the bodies. He put flowers on the floor for them. He bowed his head and muttered a few words. He did the acknowledgement that this is the end of their lives. But I think part of the ethereal glow around Harry that makes it so impactful here is like, yeah, that's the end of that friendship, but brand new one starting right now with little baby Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's such a lovely scene, I think, to have Hagrid be there. Because we do just get the idea of Hagrid bringing Harry from the house. Mm-hmm. and we don't ever actually sit with what Hagrid must be feeling.
Yeah, because I always thought of it as just like, oh, he comes on the motorcycle and is like, okay, get the kid and go, because that's what Dumbledore told him to do. You don't think about how the emotional
weight,
that Hagrid is going through in that moment.
As we're having this conversation, I can't think one time that I've ever read this series where I read that scene and think, wow, I wonder what Hagrid's really like going through here. Mm-hmm. So it's just a really interesting look at Hagrid, even though it's a very miniature scene. It's a really interesting look at Hagrid, and I think we see the softer side of Hagrid throughout the entire series, but it's a nice, more intimate look. I think this is low key one of the better scenes. One of the better scenes. Yeah. I really, really enjoy this scene.
Agreed.
We'll move on to Act 4, Scene 14, Hogwarts classroom. Just a generic Hogwarts classroom, apparently. Scorpius and Albus run into a room very, very excitedly. Scorpius apparently has asked out Rose Granger Weasley.
And then Albus is like, yeah, you do realize she said no, right?
But, hear me out. I've planted the acorn that'll grow into our eventual marriage. They talk about Scorpius's romantic successes in the alternate world, and Scorpius thinks upon it and says, yeah, logic says I probably should pursue Polly, since apparently we did have this connection in the alternate world. I mean, she is a notorious beauty, but a rose is a rose.
Oh, Scorpius, you romantic you.
Poet, Scorpius, okay.
I did like how Albus then reminds him, like, Rose does hate you. Logic would dictate that you're being a freak right now. He used that word. And then Scorpius was, no. She doesn't, well, she did hate me, but it's changed. Now she just pities me. And pity is the start, a foundation on which to build a palace of love. Once again, such a romantic.
Yeah, they go back and forth a little bit on Scorpius's romantic capabilities here. Albus laments himself not having a girlfriend.
For a second, I was like, okay, Albus, a little rude to be like, I thought I was going to be the first one to get a girlfriend.
Albus is rude this whole thing. Scorpius is very excited. She said no. Scorpius is very excited again. Rose hates you. Scorpius gets very excited again. Albus is like, I don't have a girlfriend. Scorpius is trying. He's trying to remain positive and optimistic here. And Albus not being a great wingman, but Scorpius suggests that Albus look into the new smoky-eyed potions professor.
Oh.
And Albus is like, dude, I don't have a thing for older women.
He said nothing. And you've got time, a lot of time, to seduce her, because Rose is going to take years for me to be able to persuade. So maybe both of us can get girlfriends at the same time eventually.
Rose eventually appears in this scene, and she passes the boys on the stairs, the famous Hogwarts stairs. We get a reappearance of the famous Hogwarts stairs.
So I guess they left the classroom at some point.
Apparently. Rose says hi to the boys. The boys don't know exactly how to respond. And Rose, looking at Scorpius, says, this is only weird if you make it weird. And Scorpius is like, received and understood. And Rose looks at Scorpius with a little smirk and says, okay, Scorpion King.
Oh, acorn has been planted.
And Albus is like, maybe you're right. Pity is a start. Scorpius suggests going to see the Quidditch match that's going on. It's a big one. We got Slytherin versus Hufflepuff. And Scorpius goes further by saying, I've actually been practicing a little bit. Maybe I could actually make the team next year. And Albus is like, dude, we don't like Quidditch. And Scorpius says, yeah, that's true, but people change. Albus eventually says, well, okay, but I can't. My dad is coming, Harry's coming, and he apparently wants to go for a walk. So at this point, Scorpius gives Albus a big hug, to which Albus responds with, we also hug now? Like, that's a thing we're doing? Scorpius is like, yeah, why not? This is the new us. And the boys split and go in separate directions.
So the whole Albus talking about Harry coming and wanting to go on a walk, he called it like a bonding thing, quote, or something similarly vomit-inducing. And I was like, oh, Albus, like vomit-inducing? I don't know if he's just trying to play up being cool. Like, I don't really want to bond with my dad, but I guess I have to. Like, that kind of thing. Kind of keeping the appearances of his previous reactions towards bonding with Harry. Or if he truly does feel that way, I don't know. But it does strike me as a bit silly for him to react that way, given everything that he just went through and that Scorpius would be aware he has gone through. But the fact that he is accepting to go on this walk with Harry, I think goes back to what I was saying about how Albus needed to accept the special love that Harry has been giving him this whole time. I could imagine that Harry has wanted to take a walk with him and show him something, whatever this something is. And previously he'd just been like, no, Dad, I don't want to do that. Just angsty. So him now being like, you know what? Okay, I guess I'll do it. Is those walls crumbling down that I have been wanting to have happen this entire play. So glad it finally has.
So there's two main things I get from this scene.
Okay.
And one is this is a dagger to all of the Scorpius Albus shippers, because they seem pretty intent on pairing Scorpius with Rose. Mm-hmm. And they've been seeding the Scorpius Rose thing literally from the very beginning.
I suppose you could be like Albus being like, hey, you remember she hates you? Hey, remember that? Like, that's a little bit to keep it alive still. But yeah, it is very much a dagger at it.
Obviously, the boys do have a certain chemistry together, for sure. Both on stage and I think in the actual writing of this. They seem to have a chemistry together. If you are pro Albus and Scorpius together, this scene is not your favorite, probably. And if you don't like the idea of Albus and Scorpius getting together, you're like, hey, look at this scene. Yeah. Scorpius and Rose. Yeah. It's going to be a thing. But, however, which way you want to interpret it. And then the second thing, actually, I find quite profound is something so simple. The boys split and go in opposite directions.
Yeah.
And I think while it's such a simple thing, it's profound in that I think that really drills home the idea that both boys have matured and grown from where they started this book or this production at. Because Scorpius is like laying it out throughout this scene of how he's changed and how he's grown and how he's matured. Right? He's like, hey, I actually went and I asked out Rose. Like, yeah, it didn't work, but I did it. That's a big step.
I'm excited about Quidditch now.
I'm excited about Quidditch. Yeah, it wasn't really our thing, but hey, people change. People grow. Albus does make the joke about like, oh, yeah, my dad wants to go for a walk, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Which is a little bit of the angsty stuff. But at the end, they split and they go their ways.
Yeah, he goes towards the walk. Scorpius goes towards the Quidditch.
And I think that's growth in both of them, realizing that while they are such great friends, and that will never change, and they'll always have that bond, they are allowed to open themselves up to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And realize that there is more out there that we can be interested in. We don't have to shut ourselves off to new experiences or people or feelings. We can experience those things and still be great friends.
I would agree. I like that reflection that isolation has not done us any favors, and we saw at least Scorpius saw a different version of himself, one that was popular, one that was on Quidditch, so clearly those skills do exist in there somewhere, one who was living life, granted maybe not making the life choices that this version of Scorpius would do, but seeing yourself capable of other things must make you reflect about how you're living your own life and be like, I want more for myself. So I'm proud of him for doing that. And like I said, I am proud of Albus for going towards Harry and accepting, like, I gotta do this thing with my dad. It's important to my dad that I do it, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. I think it's a really nice place to leave Scorpius and Albus. Mm-hmm. They're good. Everything's good between them. And they're open for more. There's more to experience.
Life-changing things happen on the Hogwarts stairs.
Of always. The best things happen on the Hogwarts stairs. That's the magic of Hogwarts stairs that Rose was like, hey.
Team stairs.
No. We will take a short break here. We'll pause it, and then we will be back with the final scene of Cursed Child. So stick around, and we will be right back. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy and Cody and join them on the Outlap.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I love magic.
All right, so we are back with Act 4, Scene 15. It is the last scene of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Woo.
And we are on a beautiful hill. Harry and Albus walk up this hill on a bright, sunny day, and Harry asks Albus if he's ready for 4th-year exams. Well, and then, you have 5th-year exams after that, and, they're pretty big and all, and, in my 5th year, I did some good, and I did some bad, and, it was a very confusing time in my life.
I love how Albus is just like, good to know.
Yeah, Harry's off to a great start. Albus tries to make his own imprint on the conversation, and Albus tells Harry about the time that he was observing James and Lily while in the past. Mm-hmm. And Albus told Harry of when James would blow smoke rings, and Harry would just giggle and giggle and giggle incessantly.
That's just an adorable thing to picture. I love it.
Albus says that I think you would have really liked them. I think we would have really liked them.
Yeah, we being him, James, and Lily. Like, as grandparents, we would really enjoy James and Lily.
And then there's an uncomfortable silence that kind of follows this. And I think it's, one, Harry's attempt to connect with Albus, and it fell into the same trap that he's been falling into of he tried to make it about Albus, and once again ends up making it about himself, which is not exactly what he intended to do and not what Albus wants to hear. And then when Albus tries to reach out, which I do give Albus credit for trying to reach out, I think it's a good idea.
Agreed.
But when he's trying to cheer up Harry by telling a story about Harry's parents, I think it has the reverse effect of, oh, that's a really nice story that I don't remember. And you're right, I probably would have liked to spend time with my parents, and it would be great to share my children with my grandparents.
And I never get to do that.
And I won't.
Yeah.
And I think he ends up feeling more sad
Yeah.
by hearing that.
The stage note did say, like, they're both trying to reach out to each other and both are failing. And I agree that, like, wall between them is still there. Like, it's becoming a little more transparent. Maybe there's a little bit more cracks, but it's still just like, this is uncomfortable. Okay.
So Harry tries to address essentially the elephant in the room, and one of the bigger things that happens in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, what he said to Albus. Mm-hmm. So Harry begins with reflecting on the fact that he thought he had been rid of Voldy. By getting rid of the piece of soul inside of him, he thought that physically purging himself of Voldy would be enough. What he didn't account for is that he also had to be mentally rid of Voldy, and clearly he was not.
Someone needed therapy.
Very much so. So he continues by saying, the thing I said to you was unforgivable. I can't ask you to forget that, but I hope we can move past it. I'm going to try and be a better dad. I'm going to try and be more honest. And Albus says, Dad, you really don't need to. You really don't need to be. And Harry moves into a story about how Albus had told him at one point, like, you're not afraid of anything. You're Harry Potter. You're this Gryffindor, courageous, brave hero of the wizarding world. What could you possibly be afraid of? You faced Voldy
how many times?
So many times. Better wizards than you have crumbled under that. And you persevered anyway. Mm-hmm. What could you possibly be afraid of? And Harry's like, I couldn't believe you said that to me. I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of small spaces. And, I'm not really fond of pigeons. And Albus is like, I'm sorry, pigeons? And Harry's like, yeah, they're nasty, pecky, dirty little things. They give me the creeps. But ultimately, Albus, the thing that scares me the most is being a dad to you. I don't have wires to guide me. No father to be like. No father to be different than. I am learning, and I'm going to try with everything I've got to be a good dad for you. So there's a lot in this little section. I do like at the very top how Harry does follow up back to back with his experiences with Voldy. And look, it's not a pleasant thing in his past. It's caused him so much mental, emotional, and physical pain and anguish. Mm-hmm. And he knows that the thing he said to Albus can cause his son mental and emotional anguish. And he's like, look, I know that what I said, it can't be taken back, and you can't forget it.
Right.
But I'm hoping we can both be better and we can both move on from this.
I like, too, with that, how he said he didn't expect Albus to forgive him, which, even though he hasn't gone to therapy, that does remind me of Therapy Speak, where it's like, I'm not forcing you to forgive me one way or the other. I don't want you to feel guilty of having to or not wanting to, but I acknowledge what I did wrong. I hope we can go forward and be better. I do love you, and this is me trying to show that I love you.
Yeah. I think it's actually a really nice way to intro that discussion, mm-hmm. and then kind of have that openness with Albus. I think it's a really nice thing that Harry did there.
Now, them talking about fears, though. Okay, so I understand the whole fear of the dark. I definitely understand the fear of small spaces. The kid was raised in a cupboard under the stairs. Pigeons? Pigeons, though? Pigeons? Like, I don't know where that one's coming from. And also, just because it's the Wizarding World, whenever we're talking about fear, the first thing that comes into my mind is the boggart. And I am just trying to picture Harry Potter coming across a boggart of a massive pigeon. To me, this is so silly. And I get the point is to have some silliness so that Albus feels like less on edge or whatever. I don't think Harry Potter saw pigeons. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I think Harry begins with two relatively common fears, the dark and small spaces. I think he shares those fears with a great many people. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that really throws anyone for a loop. It's understandable. And like you said, obviously darkness and small spaces can be tied to his childhood when he was staying in a cupboard for extended periods of time. Mm-hmm. Or he was locked in a room. Mm-hmm. Against his, wishes and against his will. So that makes sense. I think we can all agree that those two, on the surface, may seem odd. When you dig a little deeper, I think they're really, spot on. The pigeons. I think, one, he is trying to be a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit on the more humorous side. I don't think Harry Potter is walking down a street in London, seeing a pigeon going, ah, and running the other way.
No, I think it would be more like Ron, where it's like, I don't like spiders. I don't like pigeons. Now I kind of want to see Ron and Harry both face a boggart. We got a massive pigeon and a massive spider.
Okay, you keep bringing up the boggarts. Here's the thing. The boggarts are supposed to be your worst fear. Mm-hmm. He is not seeing a pigeon as his worst fear. That is just not happening.
But what if he did?
It's just not happening. Obviously, when that lesson took place, it was a Dementor that he saw. Mm-hmm. Lupin assumed it was Voldy for obvious reasons, and it ended up being a Dementor. And I think Harry tells you what his greatest fear is. Very bluntly, he says it's essentially failing his son.
Right. And I do like that part of it, too, because I agree with Harry, like, not having father figure in your life other than Vernon Dursley, who's not really your father figure, and Sirius and Hagrid, Dumbledore, like, even Arthur Weasley, who was arguably the closest father figure, like, none of them are truly Harry's father. So having no real good model of what it looks like to be a loving, caring father means he's just doing his best. And even if you're trying your best, you're still going to fail at times.
I think if you combine Sirius and Lupin, I think you might get James as a father.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Dash of Arthur.
Well, Arthur is the hope.
Everyone wants Arthur as a father.
Arthur's just fantastic. But anyway. Albus counters this with, I will try to be a better son. I'm not really like you or James. And Harry's surprised by this and says, what are you talking about? James is nothing like me. Everything is easy for James. My childhood was a constant struggle. And Albus says, so you're saying I'm like you? And Harry's like, well, kind of, but really you're more like your mom. You're fierce, you're bold, you're funny. All qualities that I like, and it makes you a great son. I really enjoy how Harry is slowly ticking off a list of things Albus assumed of him, and is like, this is why I need to be more honest with you and more open with you, is because you're getting this view of me. You're getting the world's view of me. What the world thinks of me, you're getting that. Here's who I really am. Like, here's what I've been trying to communicate to you, maybe in not the best way. Because he has talked about his struggles at Hogwarts, but I think what those stories end up being is how he ended up being a hero. And Albus is hearing the hero part and not the struggle part.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not exactly Harry's intent. He's trying to tell him, like, hey, look, I was also an outcast. I was also had the spotlight on me, and I didn't live up to it probably most of the time.
Well, like, it reminds me of when he was talking to Albus about making friends. And he was like, you know, it's really hard to make friends. And Albus heard that and just took it kind of as like, you don't like my friends. And it is that, like, that mistranslation that occurs from the person giving the story to the person hearing it. You just hear what you want to hear. And that's been a major issue this whole play.
Yeah. So I think they're finally on the same page, at least with a couple of these things. So I think Harry's addressing some of these issues a little bit better than he has in the past.
And Albus, I think, is at a point now where he's more willing to listen.
Yeah. So after Harry says, you're a great son, Albus responds with, I almost destroyed the world.
Oops.
Which is the same thing he told Ginny.
Yeah.
I almost ruined everything. And Harry, like Ginny, I think responds in a pretty good way. Harry, I think, responds in a great way. Harry says, look, Delphi wasn't going anywhere. You just brought her into the light and found a way to fight her. Albus says, shouldn't I have done better? Harry's like, you have no idea how much I asked myself that very same question.
I identify with everything you're feeling right now.
Correct. Albus says, but I wanted to kill her. And Harry says, no. You watched her murder people, and you were angry about that. I don't believe you would have actually done it. And Albus communicates a worry about his Slytherin side. Isn't that the worst of the Slytherin in me? That I wanted that vengeance, that I wanted that finality, that punishment. Isn't that the worst of me and my house? And Harry says, look, I don't understand your head. You're a teenager. I shouldn't understand your head. But I do understand your heart. Slytherin, Gryffindor, whatever the label you have, you'll be a great wizard. And Albus looks at Harry and with a little grin says, you know, I'm thinking I don't actually want to be a great wizard. I want to go into pigeon racing. I'm really excited about it.
Aww.
Which is a nice little way to make Albus and Harry both smile. Mm-hmm. And kind of get them a little bit more connected and a little bit closer. And I think it's another one of those great conversations. And the reason why I like Harry's response to Albus is it's true. Delphi was there. Mm-hmm. She was going to enact her plans one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Albus just seemed to accelerate the process and bring her out into the open so everybody else can be aware of her plans.
It reminds me of Harry in book 5 with going to the Ministry of Magic and, you know, going into the prophecy room. And while it all did end up really unfortunately with prophecy destroyed and Sirius's death and, you know, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of suffering, it did quicken the pace of Voldemort being exposed to the wizarding world, which we know was going to happen eventually. He was going to out himself so that he could properly take over. But by forcing his hand, then the Ministry, Fudge, had to finally acknowledge, like, oh, yeah, he's here. So I think Harry, in this moment, he totally identifies with Albus's feelings of, like, oh, but, you know, shouldn't I have done better? Shouldn't I have made better choices? And like, yeah, like, none of us can predict the outcomes of our choices, but the fact that we continue to question them, like, that's kind of what makes us good people. And you are a good person, whatever house you are in.
Harry continues with that same line of thinking by saying that the names that Albus Severus is named after shouldn't be burdens. Both men had their trials too. Albus says, yeah, they were good men. Harry's like, no. They were great men, but they did have huge flaws.
Yeah. And
those flaws made them greater. So that idea that, you know, why being named after Albus Dumbledore and Severus Snape shouldn't be a burden, like what everybody has kind of assumed. Even Dumbledore assumed it.
Dumbledore's portrait, that is.
Well, yeah, but still. Even Dumbledore's like, whoa, you kind of overstepped. But the reason why they're not burdens in Harry's opinion is because, look, Albus, you don't have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Just because you're named after two great men and two great wizards doesn't mean you have to be as great as them or as smart as them or as witty as them or whatever their characteristics that you admire are. They were flawed too. They had big issues. They were not perfect men. In pretty big ways. So the fact that you are not perfect and the fact that you have flaws does not mean you can't be great.
No, it means you're just like them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really like Harry reaffirming that to Albus and re-educating him on his namesakes. And again, this is yet another tick on the list of, okay, Albus is feeling a certain way about things that I have done.
Let me explain myself.
And how can I find a better way to communicate my thoughts and feelings on the subjects that Albus is concerned about? And I think he's doing a really good job so far.
Yeah, agreed.
So Albus asks an obvious question, seemingly. Why are we here? And Harry's like, well, I often come here. And Albus is like, a graveyard? You often just come to a graveyard to hang out? And Harry's like, no, this is where Cedric's grave is located. And he asks Albus, how well did you know Craig Bowker, the student who died? And Albus responds, not well enough. Harry says, well, I didn't know Cedric well enough either. He could have played Quidditch for England, or been a brilliant orar, really anything. He could have done anything he wanted. And his father, Amos, was right. He was stolen. So really, I come here just to say sorry, whenever I can. And Albus says, that's a really good thing to do. Harry says, I think it's going to be a good day. He touches his son's shoulder. They melt into each other a little bit. And Albus responds with, "So do I."
No. And then the curtain falls and the audience goes, "Yay! Encore!" and all that fun stuff.
So honestly, the curtain dropping and all of that and all the story that you just witnessed on stage is supposed to be a triumphant thing, and it's supposed to be this wonderful moment. And I think it really ends on an emotional beat.
I like the softness of it. Like, it doesn't have to be this big grand finale. It's a quiet moment, but it makes it come full circle. Because everything that's set into motion, the time travel and the mistakes made by Albus, was the idea of saving Cedric and fixing this wrong. And I think part of Harry visiting Cedric's grave as opposed to anybody else's grave, anyone else who had died for him, you think about his parents. Like, sure, it'd be important to visit his parents' grave with Albus, but we know James and Lily sacrificed themselves for Harry. Like, Dumbledore's grave, Dumbledore sacrificed himself for Harry. Sirius's grave, same thing. Any of the graves of the 50, they knew what they were fighting for. Cedric, though, like Voldemort called him, was a spare and did not intend to die for Harry. He just happened to be there. So of all the deaths, I can understand why Cedric's would give him the most guilt. But I do love him bringing Albus and being like, look, you thought I didn't feel anything towards Cedric. I come here all the time. I apologize to him all the time. Like, this is my way of keeping his memory alive. And I'm sorry that I had never, expressed that to you, because as far as Harry is concerned, why would you need to know that I do that? So I do like this father-son moment, and I do like the stage note about how Albus is melting slightly into Harry as Harry touches his shoulder, and it's like, oh, finally, the wall between the two has come down. Father and son bonding has finally happened, and there's understanding between the two of them. It's such a nice moment.
So possibly the most obvious take I think I've expressed during the length of this podcast, from book one to now, is that I really liked this scene. Specifically because Harry does make a tribute to Cedric, and he acknowledges that he makes multiple tributes to Cedric and his memory, and he does acknowledge the greatness that the wizarding world has lost with Cedric's death. So obviously I like that, being such a big fan of Cedric that I am. I do also like it because it's such an interesting question that he asks Albus. How well did you know Craig Bowker? And Albus says, not well enough. And Harry says, well, I didn't know Cedric well enough either. And I think that's a really common feeling whenever you lose somebody, no matter how close you are with that person, whether you're just an acquaintance that you met at work or at school or whatever, or it's a family member, it's a loved one, it's a best friend, it's a significant other, and you lose that person, no matter how long you've known them, no matter how well you know them, you always feel when that person finally goes, oh, I didn't know them well enough. I should have asked them about this. We should have had a conversation about that. And I think it's a really wonderful sentiment to acknowledge. So it's just a really nice scene that I think we get to close out Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Yeah.
So that does close out Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. However, we are not done with this episode just yet. First of all, I would like to thank Elizabeth for being on throughout the entire production.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm sure you're sick of my voice by now.
No, I appreciate it. And I appreciate it because this was your first read through of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Which is so rare for me because I've reread this series. I mean, I've lost track of how many times I've reread the series, but I do distinctly remember getting this book and then just not being able to find the willpower to open it because I was afraid it would ruin the original 7 books for me. So it's been interesting finally giving it a chance.
Yeah, so it being your first read through, I did want your opinions throughout every single scene, and we have gotten your opinions on every single scene. You had some harsh criticisms earlier on. Now that we've wrapped up Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, what are your thoughts on the whole?
Well, I'm going to break this down by a few categories, and if you want to comment after each category, that's fine. Starting off with the characters, I still stand by the comment I've made before of Scorpius is the real highlight here. I feel like his character was so well developed and fleshed out. He had a sense of humor. He had soft moments, emotional moments. He was brave at times. He really transformed by the end. We saw him find his confidence and even have emotional moments with his father. So every time Scorpius was on stage, it made me really happy.
I can get behind that. I could agree with Scorpius being a standout.
Yeah, I would like to see more of him.
Both on stage and written.
Yes.
I think he's fantastic.
Yes, and I almost wonder if the play, what it would look like if Scorpius as the protagonist instead of Albus, because while I don't hate Albus as a character, I still did not love him as a character. I felt like some of his choices, while we can certainly argue they are in line with what a teenager might do, I still felt like they were a little overdramatic at times. And I was more interested in the relationship Scorpius seemed to have with Draco. So I think it'd be kind of cool to see Scorpius as the protagonist, Albus as the supporting character.
So I do agree that I don't think they ever truly committed to Albus as the sole protagonist.
Yeah.
He is a protagonist. He's not the focus. They still try to get a lot of Harry.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. And they do give a lot of shine to Scorpius. And I wonder if that was they got the script together, they got the production together, and they're like, man, this Scorpius kid jumps. Like, maybe we should give Scorpius a little more, because this is electric. Mm-hmm. And then they split it more and more and more, which I think this still works. For the record, I think it still works, especially as a stage play.
And they're fun, like, friends. Like, I like their friendship a lot.
But I think to what you're saying is you would have liked to see this through Scorpius's eyes more specifically. I think that works because we've met Scorpius now. Mm-hmm. I think if they had just left this as a stage play and let everybody witness the stage play, one, I think people would be less divisive about it. Two, Scorpius still pops, and people love the Draco redemption. Mm-hmm. So I think with Scorpius getting that shine, and then Draco getting the redemption, you're like, hey, I kind of like these Malfoys. If you want to give me another book on Draco and Scorpius, or just from Scorpius's point of view, that's your entryway there.
No, I agree, because I know when the book, the play came out, like, the selling point was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Branding.
And that branding did make everyone immediately assume this is going to be a Harry Potter type story, but it wasn't. And
still got to sell tickets.
You got to sell the tickets.
Got to sell the tickets.
I think since Scorpius is the one that gets to experience the alternative timeline, and Scorpius is the one who gets pulled into this adventure as the reluctant hero, but goes through so much growth, he is really a shining star as a hero. So I wouldn't have minded that. In terms of other character comments, like we talked before, some of them it was hard to believe that these are the same characters as the original series. Ginny had a lot less authority, I think, a lot less assertiveness. Personality too. Ron just went the complete opposite direction of losing his personality and just kind of being, the butt of the joke a lot of the times, which, let's be fair, while Ron might be treated like the butt of a joke in the movies, as far as I can remember, he is so much more than that in the books. I still love the meme that has constantly been made about Harry as like, sir, why didn't you name your children something other than Albus, James, Lily? Because there were so many times where it confused me and I had to literally be like, okay, which James are we talking about? Which Lily is this? Which Albus is this? So I know having the same names allows for the plot points of Albus feeling like he's not living up to the names and being able to see the connection between grandparent and son and grandchild, like all that fun stuff. But it would have made things a little easier.
Look, I don't blame Harry for forcing through his firstborn son as James, and I don't blame the only daughter being Lily.
Mm-hmm.
The issue comes with Albus Severus. You gotta give Ginny something here. I do agree with you that Ron and Ginny seem to be changed the most of any character in this entire production. Ron is a complete non-factor, which honestly we could probably do a whole episode on possibly why that is.
I mean, it makes me sad because I do like Ron as character.
I get everything you said, and it's true. Ron is a very crucial member of the Golden Trio throughout all of the main series. 100% will not disagree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
For this story, though, he does become a non-factor. And there, I think, are actual, definable, defendable reasons for that.
Sure.
Which, again, is maybe a whole other episode that we can dive into the whole character of Ron.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe we'll do that someday. But Ginny is a factor here because she is a mother of the protagonist. So she should be a little bit more of a factor. And some of the personality changes that we've seen in Ginny are baffling. And I don't love those.
Well, she doesn't seem as supportive as a wife a lot of the time.
Yeah. But the one thing I will give Ginny is I did really enjoy her speaking up on her experiences with the Chamber of Secrets and being like, that was a really hard time for me.
Yeah.
And I do love getting that insight. The only thing I would have liked more is more of that. And Ginny really getting a chance to be like, no, I struggled.
Well, speaking of more of scenes, I wouldn't have mind more sibling scenes between James, Lily, and Albus. I think that could have helped develop Albus's character at the beginning of the play and really showing his struggles, because maybe if it's James and Lily are getting to get along super, super well and they're fitting in well and Albus is just kind of like the odd man out, that could have helped develop why he feels so uncomfortable. I wouldn't have minded more the Silver Trio. I know we got mentioned really quickly of Neville. Would have loved some Luna. I love Luna, but I get, again, why maybe the adults of the original series are not necessarily touched upon as much. The one other character I do want to also mention, Delphi. I remember when I first heard about the gist of the play, thinking Voldemort having a child. Oh, heck no, I'm not reading that. And reading it now, I did like the whole twist of her seemingly being innocent at first, but then being the real villain of the play, other than Voldemort, obviously. Because she did a really good job of persuading the kids that she's trustworthy. I mean, she's an adult, she's pretty, she's got good intentions, we want to save Cedric, and it's a good cause, and just completely flipping it on them was really, really fun to see. And I always like a good female villain. I think we don't see those as much as we should. So characters wise, those were my thoughts. Plot, I really actually do enjoy the time travel aspect of this. I think if you're going to do a Harry Potter sequel per se, using time travel as the device to make it necessary to tell is kind of fun. As I've said before, time travel stories always do make me anxious because I know the past always gets messed up and then the future gets messed up, and then I'm always like, oh my gosh, how can we go back to the way things were? It's so messy and horrible now. And I think they did a good job of trying to, one, show how little changes in the past can deeply affect the future. I loved seeing the alternative timeline of Voldemort being in charge after Cedric became the Death Eater. But that said, I also like the idea of fixing things and bringing the reality back to normal. So going back into the past and seeing the prophecy, the moment, that Halloween night that we have heard about the entire series and Harry has had dreams about. Like, that was also really nice to visit. Do I still love the fact that Albus randomly out of nowhere decided he needed to save Cedric and it had to happen now with this time turner that he didn't even technically know existed? No. I think they could have done a better job of developing that and making it more understandable as to why he so desperately wanted to go back in time and save Cedric. But by the end of it, it was okay. I'm not going to hate on it. I just think they could have maybe cleaned it up a little bit. The title itself, I think, is interesting because it does fit multiple characters. When you pick it up, obviously, you immediately think that the cursed child is going to be Albus because, it's Harry Potter and the cursed child. And the cover alone kind of makes you assume that because you've got this bird's nest with these wings coming out of it and this tiny boy clutching his knees sitting in the middle of the nest. So you immediately think, oh, okay, that must be Albus. And what's with the wings? What's with the nest? Who knows? But then you also realize that the cursed child could also be Delphi, and that nest and the wings are supposed to be symbolic of her being the augury, and obviously the cursed child being the cursed child of Voldemort. But I also think that it does apply to Harry, too, that he was the cursed child. He has suffered tremendously, not just in his childhood, but now even into his adulthood, and trying to protect his own cursed child, Albus. It's nice to see it fitting all three of them, I think.
So, as someone who's now read this twice, this is my second read through, I will say it settles better your second time through.
Good to know. You
can kind of brush past some of the things you don't like a little bit easier. Look, I'm never going to get over the demonic trolley lady. Never, ever, ever. That being said, I think, for me, this will never be the 8th Harry Potter book for me.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that's actually its true intention. I know they've sold it and marketed it, making people think it is. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't think it'll ever be that. However, I do like some things in it. I do enjoy some of the character growth. I do like seeing some of our characters in their adult forms, dealing with big adult issues. And I do like how they are reconciling a little bit with their pasts, and they kind of clash a little bit with what their younger selves might have thought about adults in the same world. I enjoy that. And obviously Scorpius, as we've mentioned many times, is fantastic. And Draco's redemption is really fun to track through it, and how him and Harry end up pretty good by the end of this.
Yeah, which is nice to see.
And we even get hints of him and Ron eventually going to patch things up in the future, which is just a cool thing to have happen. So that's really awesome. I view this first and foremost as a stage production, which is what it is intended to be. And I think it's a really cool snapshot of the wizarding world, even in canon, but just through a different medium. And you do have to accept when things are done through a different medium, they're going to be a little different to kind of fit that medium better. So that's kind of where my mindset is on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is. It's good for what it is. If you're thinking it's something different, if you're thinking it's going to be a continuation of Deathly Hallows into the next thing, then you're going to be disappointed. But if you're just viewing it as its own separate thing that does take place in the wizarding world, I think you'll actually be quite pleased with it.
I'm still never going to think of it as canon, I think. Again, maybe if more time was spent developing the characters in a way that seems to fit who we have grown to know and love. I mean, sometimes it was just a simple word choice or an action that just tweaking it ever so slightly would make it seem to make more sense that this is Ron or this is Ginny or Hermione or whoever it might be. But that said, like you were saying, this is supposed to be a stage production, and I do think it thrives as a stage production. I mean, we talked before about how they purposely wrote magic into it, and if you're going to be telling a play about a magical world, you best be able to sell the magical elements of it, and I think it really does. I mean, we talked before about how whenever they use their wands to shoot off spells, there's little, like, pyrotechnics going off, little fireworks, and that was always fun to see. The use of the lighting is tremendous. We've talked before about how it kind of creeps up into the stage, so in that darkness you can switch out characters. For example, when they did the polyjuice potion, like literally coming up into the robe as another character is coming out of it and sneaking off into the darkness. It was flawlessly done. The magical bookcase that pulled people inside and had books screaming at them and flying out at them and attacking them was really, really cool. And even other things like the moving staircase. Like we said, there's so many scenes on the staircases, and watching them move the staircases around the stage was really great at showing the distance between Albus and Scorpius, or the closeness of them depending on what stage of the play we were in. So I think as a production it does really, really well. So I guess overall I came into this expecting to hate it the way I've always thought that I would hate it, just based on the plot points that I knew. It did drive me nuts a lot of times. There were also the parts that I really, really loved. Again, I'm probably never going to think of it as canon, but overall, I think I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. So if you've never read it or if you've never seen it, I would recommend giving it a shot.
I would say that even if you disliked the actual book, and if you were listening to this podcast and our breakdowns of the scenes and you're like, wow, that sounds really weird, or oh, I don't like that, or wow, that's a weird choice that they made. That's all fine. Totally cool. Please also comment and let us know what those things were. But that's fine. However, I would humbly ask that you do go check out the stage production. It truly is really cool to go see. Mm-hmm. And we're not the only ones that think that. It was nominated for 10 Tonys. It won 6 of them, including Best Play, Best Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Scene Design, Best Lighting Design, and Best Sound Design. So technically, it is a really cool stage production to go see. Support actors, support artists that are trying to actually make this stuff really, really cool. Yeah, they deserve it.
Live theater is the best.
It's awesome. So really do try to go support them. It's worth checking out.
I think we're going to have to go a second time at some point, because it would be fun to see the play again, having now read the actual script.
So I think that wraps us up for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Many of you are hopefully asking, what's next? What do you got on deck?
So, hey, Dan, what's next?
Yeah. So we do have plans on deck for Hogwarts, a podcast, and we are going to tackle some of the support books. So we're going to tackle Tales of Beetle the Bard.
Ooh, okay.
Quidditch Through the Ages, and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Nice.
And we will probably attach the Fantastic Beasts movies onto that book when we get there and kind of tackle those. And we also, speaking of stage productions and plays and things of that nature, there is a stage production of Harry Potter coming to Chicago soon. Not Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but it's a show called Potted Potter.
Yeah, I keep getting ads for that on my social media. It looks like it just basically boils down the 7 books into about 40 minutes.
Yeah, I've been once, but it's been a long time since I attended a show. They do a really good job of incorporating audience in. They get a lot of interactive things going in their storytelling. They're very funny.
Fun.
So it's an abbreviated performance of the 7 books, but it's a fun time. So we might attend that performance when it comes to Chicago and probably do an episode on our thoughts and reactions to that.
Cool.
So be on the lookout for that. But I think the next episode will be our first dive into Tales of Beetle the Bard.
Ooh, I'm excited, especially because of what I remember. I know I read them a long, long time ago, but there are a lot of like the Wizarding World fairy tales. So it'll be intriguing to see how they compare to our fairy tales.
So stay tuned, stay engaged. You can stay engaged by commenting and liking and reposting all of our stuff on social media, whether that's Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can find all of our socials at Hogwarts a Pod. You could also leave a comment if you're listening on Spotify by going to our episode on Spotify, leaving a comment there. If you scroll down on that episode, you can also participate in our polls. They're going to be on every single episode that we do, and they are up for a long, long time. So if you've missed a poll, feel free to go back to any of the previous episodes and participate in them. We love seeing those results.
Yeah, and if you're still catching up with episodes, please still do comment on previous ones, because if you have thoughts about previous books that we didn't talk about, I want to be able to talk about your thoughts, so comment them.
So we hope you've enjoyed Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and we will see you soon on another episode. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.